Welcome to the Love, Sex, and Leadership podcast, where you can discover simple tantric teachings to embody your true power, awaken your soul's wisdom, and live an inspired life as a natural, intuitive, and heart-centered leader. Welcome, everyone. We got our technology sorted. We got ourselves here. I got a incredible guest with me here today, Baba Dez, coming in from Sedona. I'm here in Miami, and we're going to talk about emotional mastery, especially emotional mastery as it has to do with the masculine and these male bodies. If you're a female body, there's a masculine in you as well, so it doesn't really matter. We're talking about emotions here. And really, this whole series is all about the new book that I've just been releasing today, The Embodied Man, which is helping men get out of their heads and into their hearts. So I couldn't imagine another beautiful, more appreciative guest than Baba Dez. So I know I spent a lot of your life and energy and time supporting the planet and supporting people to do a lot of the same and to really get into their bodies. And I've learned tremendously from you. I've appreciated our brotherhood, our connection through the years, and it's great to have you here, Des.
Great to be here, man. And it's a new experience being live on Facebook and Instagram at the same time. You'd think they'd be able to link them up since they're owned by the same company. So I'm looking at two different screens here, so excuse the side view if you're on Instagram.
That's all right. That's all right. So let's just jump right in. Like when I say emotional mastery, when I talk about emotional mastery, what does that mean to you? What does that mean for somebody to have an emotional mastery in their life?
That's a great question. And I think what it comes back to is who we are as human beings. And as human beings, we have many facets. And some of the main facets of our humanity of our embodied humanity are the fact that we not only have consciousness, these minds, but we also have physical bodies, we have hearts, we have souls, we have emotional bodies. And most people get confused between the heart and the emotional body and the qualities of the aspect of us that's heart and emotions, because they're very different things. And I feel like a lot of people have done some work to get more in touch with their hearts. A lot of people have done a lot of work. In our culture, we're very supported to be in our minds. Our schooling, our culture is very mental focused, also body focused in modeling, in sports, and all those other things, to be in our bodies, but to actually be fully integrated with our emotional bodies, our hearts, our minds, our souls, and connected to the earth and the rest of humanity. When we can bring all these aspects together, emotional mastery is very important, because if we're not able to emotionally connect with other human beings, and we're not able to emotionally connect with ourselves or emotionally connect with the planet or even the universe, then what happens is we're not firing on all pistons. We're missing different aspects of what it means to be a fully integrated human being. And honestly, we're not taught how to be a fully integrated human being. And I feel that for a long time, different powers on the planet have wanted a lot of people to be disempowered and disembodied so they'd be better servants and slaves. And I feel like religions, corporations, empires have been working together to disconnect us, disempower us, and make us more malleable and controllable. So when we talk about stepping into our power, one of the things that's very important is emotional mastery.
Yeah, I love what you're saying there, and I can relate and appreciate so much. And one of the things I feel like I know I was taught as a young boy was like logic, reason, understanding. If you get good grades in school and you get all the good academics, then life is good. But there was this whole other world of like the feelings and the sensations that definitely wasn't taught in our education system. And it's rather unfortunate because I feel like when people have more of an emotional education, their lives can actually start to change. But would you say, and what I heard you saying, that there's actually, you could say, powers that be or people that don't want people to have more integration because it's better almost to have more robots in a way.
Exactly, and that's exactly the point. And if you're a man listening to this podcast, many times you may have heard in your life that women want to feel your emotionality. They want to feel more connected with you. In our culture, women are given permission to be more emotional, and almost like for centuries they've been tolerated to be emotional. And the thing that I think we're starting to realize is that our emotional presence is an asset. Our sensitivity is an asset. It's an asset if you're an alive, aware, functioning, integrated human being. If you're a robot, it's not an asset. So I think what's happening is we're starting to step into our power, and as we step into our power is directly related to our emotional mastery and our emotional bodies, because it's that sensitivity that supports us to intuit things that the mind will never be able to do. Like there are things that are happening through my emotional body that are gifting me with information because of my connection with my emotional body that my mind will never be able to do to serve me. My mind can understand and create more space for me to receive the information coming from my emotional body. And that's an important thing as a spirit and as a conscious human being. I need to stop, slow down, and actually invite my emotional body into the equation and start to really value the fact that I have feelings, that I have joy, that I have happiness, that I have sorrow, that I have grief, that I have rage, that I have fear, that I have bliss. And that feelings aren't a nuisance that gets in the way. They're actually an essential part of being an empowered human being.
Yeah, I love the clarity to which you say that, and especially also coming from you've been on this planet longer in an older male body who's speaking that quite clearly. That it supports me, and I feel like can support a lot of men who are listening, because that training isn't what we were taught. Like my military training was like, if you're vulnerable, then you're weak. If you show sadness, then you're weak. If you show your emotions, like real big boys don't cry, all the things that are just societally brought in. So what would you say to a man who is just beginning to recognize that he does have emotions and he might want to feel, but maybe the world around him isn't really as accepting of those emotions? Like, where does somebody begin with that?
Well, I feel like part of it is creating community and people around you that have common values. And if you're around people that don't honor emotions, that don't like emotions, that don't want to feel, then you're going to have people discouraging you from being a fully integrated human being. If you're around people that honor emotions, that love emotions, that appreciate sensitivity, that want to know how you feel, then you're going to want to know how other people feel. You're going to want to know how you feel, like how you really feel in your body, in your heart, in your soul. And as you start to ask those questions, and as you start actually inviting and holding space for yourself to feel, then what will happen is your emotional body will start to become whole again. And a lot of the things that we teach in the ISTA programs that are so amazing have to do with ways to reignite the emotional body, how to polish our link with our emotional body, how to call it back, and how to start igniting that aspect of ourselves. Because once again, if we don't know how we feel, then we really don't know how to move in our lives.
Hmm.
And we're moving from what we think rather than what we feel. And that's often going to get us into trouble. And eventually it's going to leave us in a place of knowing that there's something more, but we don't know quite what it is. Well, what it is reclaiming our emotional bodies.
Hmm.
What it is developing some kind of emotional mastery. Just like we would go into the gym to work out and to build our physical stamina and to tone our muscles, we need to go into the emotional gym to work out and tone our emotional muscles, our emotional bodies. And a good example of that is if you're an individual, like what emotion is really challenging for you? What emotion is really hard for you to feel? Some people, it's going to be anger. Some people, it's going to be happiness. Some people are going to be terrified to feel their grief or their sadness. So you want to go through all the emotions you can think of, and then notice which ones are the ones you need to build, which are the ones you need to actually start exercising so that you get more comfortable with them, more connected with them, more able to express and feel them. And as you do that, you'll start to develop more emotional mastery.
Yeah, and really what I hear you saying is this place of like actually feeling. I feel like what happens a lot with the emotional body is that it's the mind cognitively trying to explain what's happening inside. And there's a place I found with my own emotions where I get to where actually there's nothing that can ever be cognitively explained or understood. It's actually just this diving into the mystery that's there and feeling all the things are there. And my mind initially was like, whoa, this is freaky and weird and scary. I don't know where to go from here. But actually, when I first learned a lot of the tools inside of the ISTA container, it really supported me to know what to do with my emotional body. And it's something that, even as a man, even leading up to this book launch, like the day before, I had all this anger and rage and all, like, teammates weren't meeting deadlines. And I was just like, and I was there in front of my computer and I could feel all this energy rising. So I went to my pillow and I was just like, letting all that move. And then I'm like, oh, here I am. I'm back. I'm centered.
Yeah.
And like the Aaron from 20 years ago would have been like just been in that, like in like dicing and fighting and trying to like fight against others and not actually sitting with what was coming up inside.
Right. That's a really beautiful thing you shared, Aaron, because our default program is to go into control and to control our emotions and to not let ourselves feel and not let anybody else know that we're feeling something. So I just want to celebrate what you shared there and celebrate the mastery that you've been bringing in, because it's that sensitivity, knowing what you're feeling, and also realizing that emotions are like water, and water is one of the most powerful forces on the planet. It's a very powerful element. And if you try to hold water back, it will find a way to seep in and move around, and it will leak out unconsciously. So if you're trying to hold back anger or sadness or grief, it's going to leak out. People are going to feel it, but they're also going to lose trust of you because they can feel that you're holding something back. And so when you're holding back emotions, it's not a way to build trust with anybody, including yourself. So if you want to trust yourself, you want to let emotions flow. Emotions are energy in motion. And when we allow emotions to flow, what happens is, rather than holding on to emotions, we're able to let them move through us, and we're able to come back into a place of ease and stasis. And if you're holding on to emotions, what happens is they just keep piling up, piling up, piling up, piling up. And one of the things I know to be true for me is that if I'm not allowing and supporting my emotional body to move and flow, I am holding onto emotional energy, and that held emotional energy becomes stuck in the physical body, and it's actually the foundations of disease and physical breakdown. So I feel, and I've seen this so many times over the years, I work with so many people, and I can see where if they don't have emotional flow and emotional mastery, and they're not masterful at letting their emotions move through and flow, oftentimes those are the people that are really sick. They have allergy problems, they have illnesses, they have emotional problems, they have financial problems, physical problems, relational problems. And all of that is because they're filled up with emotions that are stuck, and nothing new can come in because they're not clearing themselves of all the emotional baggage.
Yeah, there's 2 points I just really want to draw home that I love that you shared. For one, I remember when a mentor of mine said, like, actually the strongest energy on this planet is the feminine, because if you look at a rock in a river, through years and years and years, what's going to wear away that rock, which is a stone, the pillar, I am the masculine stone, and the pillar is actually the feminine element of the water. So the water is what I feel like when I look out at Pachamama, when I look out into the earth, which is all these feminine element, is actually the most potent, powerful energy that we know. So to not know that energy inside is actually like discrediting a whole part of our being. I laugh with the title of this book because it's called Mastering Masculinity, but really, it's about mastering masculinity and femininity. But I know if I put that on the title, so many men would be like, no, I need to be a man, I need to be an alpha man, but actually, I found the more that I've leaned into my femininity and that aspect inside, the more powerful, certain, and strong my masculine presence has become. So, and the other thing I love that you said was really around the part of us that get sick, because we're suppressing things inside. And I'd love to just speak into that even more, because I feel like I witness you, and you've been on this planet for a little bit longer, and you have a strong, powerful physique, and you're moving and exercising your emotional body as well as like your physical body. So to speak into that even more, like somebody who's not moving their emotions, like what can be the piercing words that's gonna support them so they don't have to get cancer later on in life, so they don't have to have this suppression? Like what can actually get them to break free of that cage? And I see this with guys because we understand the concept, but then when it comes down to it, we're still like, well, nope, I'm not going to feel. Nope, I'm not going to, even if we understand what we're supposed to do. So like, what is it that can pierce through that armor to actually let a man truly feel?
Well, I feel like you kind of just said it. It's like, hello, brother. Do you want amazing relationships? Do you want to be wealthy? Do you want to be healthy? Do you want to have, do you want to live your life to its fullest? Or do you want to break down and be sick and die sad and angry and in despair? That's basically the invitation. And again, it's like, I feel like the things that give us the reference points are our role models. And I wish I would have had more role models in my life that were fully integrated human beings. And I know for myself, when I started learning the emotional tools and calling back my emotional body, it took me years. And I feel like I only started to, probably after 10 to 15 years of emotional practice and reclamation, that I actually start to reach a level of mastery, emotional mastery in some levels. So I feel like I was so gapped from my emotional body, and it doesn't have to be that way. We could start learning the emotional tools and emotional mastery from the time we're in our parents' wombs, in our mother's wombs. We could be born into a family and to parents that have and encourage and role model emotional mastery. But I'm not knocking what was. All I know is that we're on an evolutionary path, and we're moving into a place in humanity where we are collectively reclaiming our power. We're taking back our planet, and there's so much dysfunction today. I'm sure a lot of the people listening to this podcast right now are going to, we're in the midst of the throes of a dying culture that's so dysfunctional. And the answer is full, total integration. The answer is emotional mastery. The answer is surrounding yourself with people and beings that are going for total integration. And that's part of why the ISTA trainings are so powerful and successful, is because they deliver that in a 1 week course. And at least, even though you may not have mastery in 1 week, you'll have a clear pathway to how to achieve that mastery and to change your life radically for the better. And that's why thousands and thousands of people keep hearing about this training, and your family and friends see people that do it and they go, I want some of that. What happened to you? You've really changed. And it's the results that are creating the success of that organism. And there aren't that many people on the planet teaching that. Hopefully there are going to be more and more, because it's what's really needed.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's 2 points I want to, speak into more. One that I really hear you saying is community. And I know from my journey in the last, 7-8 years of really diving more and more into this work, compared to, when I first started working in transformational work 15 years ago, like actually having tribe around me that can be responsive and actually celebrate the emotional body was such a rewiring. Like I remember when I was living down in Haydn in New Zealand and being around people who were letting the emotions move and express, and there was such this like, oh, that's just the naturalness that a lot of people are terrified of, because there's people in boxes and cubicles in cities, and like if someone was being too loud, their neighbor, they might get a knock on the door being like, hey, is everything okay in there? I hear that you're angry, like what's wrong with you? You're being expressive, like this belief that, oh, something's wrong. I need to fix you because you're sad or angry. I need to fix you. And actually being around community that are like, wow, I celebrate that. I bring that forth has been so freeing for my body in so many ways.
It's a reframe, It's like I hear people screaming and catharting in their bedrooms or in the hall, and it's like, oh, that's really beautiful. Thank God people are feeling around me. They're letting their emotions move instead of unconsciously leaking out and undermining each other, basically.
Absolutely. And the other piece I want to connect the dots with is the connection between emotional body and our sexuality. I speak into chapter 4 in the book, the embodied man is the emotional mastery. But then later on, in the book, I'm talking about like sexual awakening. And I have it in the beginning because I found that it's really an important piece in having more sexual liberation. But I'd love to hear, some of your experience and, around emotionality as connected to our sexual body.
Okay. So you can't have sexual mastery without emotional mastery. Okay? Because what happens is you just become an animal that is really good at fucking or sex. What makes human sexuality so beautiful is the fact that our sexuality is integrated with our emotions and our hearts and our souls and our bodies and our consciousness. And that's what makes us different from animals. That's what makes human sexuality so extraordinary and so powerful, is that connection with the emotional body and emotional mastery. And the same thing with spiritual mastery. You can't have spiritual mastery without emotional mastery. You can't have sexual mastery without emotional mastery. So the emotional piece is actually foundational. And that's why it's so important to really put an emphasis on emotional mastery, because that's going to support us in mastery, financial mastery, relational mastery, sexual mastery, physical mastery. It's all connected. And the emotional piece is really, really huge. So spiritual mastery as well. A lot of spiritual paths, whether it's Eastern, Western, whatever the spiritual path is, so many spiritual paths for thousands of years and hundreds of years have been promoting emotional bypass.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the biggest problems with religions and spirituality is a spirituality that's devoid of emotionality. And I know a lot of people that are have a lot of spiritual technique and a lot of spiritual teachings and a lot of spiritual understanding, but they really haven't really brought in their own emotional mastery. And what happens is it will change, it'll change all those teachings to be much more integrated and much more anchored in love, which is really the whole idea of spiritual mastery.
Hmm. I love that you bring that in because, that was part of my journey was like when I first came into spirituality, I was, meditating a lot and I even went into the Himalayas in Nepal and I was like,
Right.
okay, I am one with God, but yet there was still this emotional, physical body. So and I'd love to even speak into it further because sometimes I find people on this kind of spiritual path, whether they're sitting in silence and doing a lot of vipassana, or they're just very much in this very ascending journey. Like,
Yep.
what have you found through the years that supports an individual who might be listening that might want to go into the emotional body, but it's scary because it's sometimes easier. Like when I was just meditating in the mountains, it was like, oh, I
Yeah.
am Buddha, I am Jesus, I am all this,
Of
but
course.
like,
Of
then I'm
course.
not actually in my body. So to somebody who might recognize that, but then might have fear with all of the stuff, all of the things that haven't been felt, like, where does somebody, how can somebody move into that in a safe way that doesn't distraught their nervous system? Because what I do find is some people go on that ascending journey because of trauma and things that have happened, and they actually want to bypass
Exactly.
their emotions because it's too much to feel.
Exactly. And you just hit it right on the head there. And it's kind of like when you start to realize that as a human being, I'm masculine and feminine, that as an embodied man, I'm masculine and feminine, then you realize that God is masculine and feminine.
Hmm.
God is also integrated. So the traditional spiritual path is the Father God, and what's missing is the Mother God,
Mm-hmm.
the Mother
Mm-hmm.
of God. So
Mm.
again, God needs to be integrated. We need to be integrated, and people oftentimes on the spiritual path, many times, a lot of spiritual masters had a lot of emotional trauma when they were young, and it was just a way to bypass the emotions. And
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of spiritual teachers and a lot of brilliant spiritual teachers that are still in the process of integrating their emotional bodies. And I can see the effect that it's having on them, but it's such an easy thing to fall back on spiritual authority, spiritual mastery, spiritual bypass. And what happens is basically it's kind of arrogance. It's like spiritual arrogance. It's like I know more, I know better than everybody else. But again, it's just an ego trip, and it's a way for them not to feel their own trauma, and it's a way for them not to feel their own place where they're disconnected from their emotional bodies and their capacity to really be agents of love, to really embody love.
Mm-hmm.
So they're making up for their lack of embodied love with spiritual mastery, spiritual authority, spiritual teachings that basically will leave you less than embodied love, which
Mm-hmm.
is the whole purpose of spirituality.
Yeah, embodied love. I love that, and that's very much in alignment with this whole message of the embodied man and like the embodied
Yes.
masculine and coming into a new trajectory of possibility where that Shiva can come off the mountain and actually come into the body. And I know for myself like the actual joy of being in the body, and it's challenging at times, and it's challenging, but then having beautiful community and brothers as yourself that I know, hey,
Yeah.
I can lean on you and you can lean on me, and we actually can be in our own vulnerability and our strength together, and to
Yeah.
celebrate that. Like that, when I could feel that, there was a comforting in my heart, and I watched some of the armor that was normally protecting me of all the conditions that have been there before. Like, it's safe to be vulnerable here. My nervous system can relax a little bit. It's okay to be in that way.
It's more than safe. It's actually powerful to be vulnerable. And until you start to experience that, it may not make sense. But there's so much power in vulnerability. There's so much power in sensitivity. And again, it's like as we break our hearts open, as we break our souls open, as we break ourselves open, and we keep letting go of control and allowing life to flow through us and allow love to flow through us, then we rely less and less on figuring things out. And we start to realize that the only way to navigate life is to feel things out. That our feelings are always going to take us in a more accurate, to a more beautiful reality than our minds.
I love that.
Our minds are wonderful. I don't want to diss the mind or discount the mind, but the mind needs to be integrated with the emotional body so that they can work together to manifest, because there are things we need to, there are puzzles and problems that we need to solve. So we need to think things through. However, if we're not able to feel as we think, we're working with half a toolkit.
Half a toolkit.
Really important.
Yeah.
Really important.
to feel things out and not to think things out. I like that. It's a good little meme. I feel like, and that's essentially, again, one of the intentions that I have with delivering this into the world. This book is to get more men out of their heads and into their hearts.
Sure. And another great analogy is that the mind is really good at figuring things out and controlling things. And the emotional body is really good at melting things and feeling through things. So one of my definitions of love, of embodied love, is being fully aware, fully present, and totally out of control. Because
I love that.
Love is out of control. The mind wants to be in control. The emotional body wants to be out of control. So, it's so one of the big themes has been learning, how do I live my life out of control? And one of the things as we've been growing up in this culture is you got to be in control. You got to stay in control. You've got to learn how to control. You've got to learn to control each other. You've got to learn to control your partner, your children, your animals. You need to control your business. You need to control yourself. You need to control your ejaculation. Everything has to be controlled.
Control the ejaculation. Do it the right way.
Right. So I don't call it ejaculatory control, as you know. I call it ejaculatory choice.
Beautiful. Because
I want my sexuality and my life and my love and everything in my life to be out of control. And the only way I can live out of control is if I have a healthy emotional body and I can feel the truth. I can feel the truth, not think what the truth is, but feel the truth. Because when you're out of control, then you can move spontaneously. And what control does is it creates rigidity, and it actually undermines love. So it's counterproductive. So how can we learn to release control, move into love and trust, live and navigate life out of control, and receive all the magic and abundance that's here for us? And magic does not happen with control. Magic happens when you're in your ease, when you're in your presence, when you let go. That's when you can actually start to move in magic. So the more ease and the more out of control you become, the more magic and love can flow through your life.
Love it.
But you don't know that until you actually start experiencing it. It's a mind blower.
Exactly, because there's not actually anything to know, because you can't know it. I share a reference for it. I remember there was a point when it was down in New Zealand, and I was pouring rain down, and I was just like having one of these kind of come to Jesus moments. And I watched my mind starting to come in, being like, okay, you know, what are you crying about? What's happening here? What are you thinking about? And I was like, mind, just give me like 5 minutes. Like, you've been with me for a long time. Just give me a few minutes here. And I just feel the emotions moving inside without needing to know why. And for my own masculine psyche, that was such a pivotal moment, because not needing to know why I was crying was like,
Right.
here's the emotions. I'm just melting into the mystery of my
See.
mind body, and I'm feeling. It's like,
Right.
this is really liberating.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful because oftentimes emotions start flowing through me and I have no idea what they're about.
Hmm.
And it doesn't even matter. It's just beautiful to feel the emotion moving through, whatever it is: anger, rage, sadness, grief, joy, bliss. It all just keeps moving and dissolving, and in that spaciousness, more can come in. More of everything can come in.
Bring it in. Welcome it all, right?
Yeah. Hey, I'm really excited about your book. I was with you as you were writing it at different times and going through the project and looking at covers and just all the different aspects of the book. And of course, I've been in the book writing process myself.
Mm.
And I feel like the book and what you've written is so beautiful and so timely. So I'm really celebrating your contribution, and I'm celebrating what you're bringing forward to the planet and to men and women. And I want to say this, reading this book isn't just something for men, it's for women too, because we all have that masculine aspect, and it'll support us to really recognize what's moving for the men and women in our lives, and how to have those things. And as a man, the feminine mysteries and the feminine teachings have been absolutely essential in my life, as have been the masculine teachings in my life, because we're all integrated beings, and we're more similar than we are different. So it's time to end the separation and bring in the integration, and your book is an important tool for that. So thank you.
Thank you, brother. This is the book, The Embodied Man. It's a thud factor. It's about 350 pages, and thank you for your support. Actually, one of the times that I was pre-fruiting it was when we were sailing out in Greece together, which was beautiful.
Yes.
It was such a great place to share that. And I like that you speak into the female body as well, because I've been getting a lot of messages from female bodies saying, hey, is this for me as well? And it's like, absolutely. The integration factor is super strong in that. So, and as being a published author as well, maybe somebody's finding you for the first time here, where can they find out more about all the beautiful offerings that you brought into this planet? Because I know there's a plethora of them, brother. So share, where can people find you and find out more of what you offer?
Well, you can go, I want to support everyone to go to ista.life. And it's such a wealth of resources there. And if you go to ista.life, there's a community drop down. And I'm listed as one of the faculty, and there's a lot of amazing beings listed as faculty there all over the world. We have about 60 faculty members, and it keeps growing and expanding. So if you want, find my bio there. I'm listed as one of the lead faculty, Baba Dez Nichols, and then there are links to a documentary movie that was made about me that's quite interesting and kind of amusing. It's called Sex Magic. There's also a link to the book Sacred Sexual Healing, the Shaman Method of Sex Magic, that I co-authored with Kamala Devi a few years back. All these are listed on Facebook as well. You can go to babadez.com, and I think that also links to my profile on the ISTA website. So you can just go to babadez.com or ista.life, and lots of links to that book, Sacred Sexual Healing. And what I love about that particular book that I wrote with Kamala Devi is it's really easy to read, and it gives you a very simple guide on how to use your sexual energy for conscious manifestation. And how, as a powerful being, your intentions and your lovemaking become a prayer and can energize and attract more love, abundance, ease, flow, and magic into your life that's aligned with love. So there's some really good information, and there's some very old teachings made very simple for modern people to understand. While you're at ISTA.life, check out the trainings and check out what's going on with ISTA level 1, 2, and 3, and why they're so important if you want to be a healthy, functional adult on this planet.
Healthy, functional adults. I think we could all have a bit more of those.
We need some of those in our governments.
Yeah, I'd say so, for sure, for sure. So thank you, brother. Thank you for the friendship, brotherhood, the leadership you bring into the world. And just, you know, one of the things I really appreciate is that unlike a lot of different teachers and people I found along the way, in spending time and getting to know you, like I noticed even before I knew you, I had my own series of judgments and thoughts and ideas, but you're the most transparent and deeply loving individual, and you actually breathe and express what it is that you teach. And that was such a warm spot in my heart to feel that, because it's great to see mentors and friends and colleagues that are actually living and breathing and not just talking about these things, but fucking doing it. And I fucking celebrate you, man. I know how much you've done in this work and how much you share yourself, and I really appreciate you so much.
That's the embodiment piece, brother, and I celebrate you on that path, and I celebrate everyone listening to this podcast on that path as well. It's the integration and the embodiment that matters. And that's where we can meet each other in a real beautiful, deep, authentic, loving place. So thank you for the invitation to share with you and everyone here. And next time I'll get my phone and my computer lined up so I'm not going back and forth, so that we can do Facebook and Instagram Live.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do another one of these for sure. I appreciate you. Thank you, man.
Thank you. I appreciate you too, brother. Take care.
All right. Take care.
Cheers. Congratulations on the book.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much. Bye.